Hello, what's good YouTube? Finally back with another video on here as well, and today we're going to reflect on the impact of Duelist Advance and the first 2 weeks of it being legal in the TCG. And it's good to already review. Usually you only have like a couple small events, so you can't really review that much, but this time around we had Oceanics and NAWCQ, the North American Worlds Qualifier, on back-to-back weekends, and therefore we have plenty of data to already have a strong opinion on how big the impact of those separate cards were from Duat. Shout out to all the people being live with us right now on Twitch as well. If you see this right now on YouTube, make sure to also hop on over to Twitch next time, and then you can maybe catch this live the next time around. And yeah, there's daily streams, so you should definitely not be missing out. Speaking of not missing out, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel on here as well, and leave a comment on what you think, how the impact from Duat overall was. But now, let's look at it. That is the full set. A whole beauty of 101 cards rare released in Duat. And actually, like when I first saw this set and when I saw the entirety of it, I thought it's crazy how many different archetypes, how many different themes actually ended up getting a crazy amount of support. Or not a crazy amount, like a lot of different things actually got some support. Like this got something, then also this got something. It was really like a bunch of cards just overall, and like this topic got 3 cards, 2 cards, 1 card. It's really, really fine, and it's really, really cool. But now, of course, we need to be talking about how actually this was also translated into the meta game, because not only, like, when you only give the themes a couple of cards on top of their already existing cards, sometimes that can be that little bit that brings it over the line. That can be that little bit where all of a sudden it is a top meta contender. But sometimes just a couple extra cards aren't really going to help the deck to get over the line just yet. So let's see, and let's talk about how expectations were and how the cards performed on the first 2 weekends. Starting off, first card we have, and that card actually is symbolizing the entirety of the new Gaga Gaga Do 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 Zuba Ba Ba cards in Duelist Advance, and we're looking at Dodo Warrior here, which is the most prominent one and arguably also the strongest one. And I think you can let me know in the comments as well, or here in Twitch chat, whether you disagree. But when I first looked at those cards, I was like, is this really going to be so viable in the Ryziel deck? Because obviously the combination with Ryziels is very, very apparent, as this also is just printing level 4 monsters. The thing though is, in my perspective, before I really started to think about the cards more in depth, I thought, hey, the Ryziel deck is already so good at just spamming out level 4 monsters, and then that resulting in rank 4 monsters, of course, as well. Do we really just need extra tools to accomplish that? And I was kind of skeptical at first whether that really would be needed, or whether that is just something that is a little bit over the top. And I think, though, in the end, what we can now say from those 2 events, this card specifically, Dodo Warrior, but the entire engine in general, gives the Ryziel strategy something that was missing before. Because if you look at this card in great detail, Dodo Warrior, when activating its effect in the hand, is not searching a card to your hand, but instead, it is sending a Dodo monster from your deck to the graveyard, which always is going to be the Gloves, which was already existing before Duelist Advance, but that now makes this card actually playable. And then you can summon back the Gloves from the graveyard, meaning you have created the opportunity to go into a rank 4 before searching a single time. And yeah, when people realized that, and when people got into deck building with those cards for the Ryziel deck, the most obvious solution, and the solution that was widely chosen, was just simply to go with the Dodo Warrior, hope to have it as often as possible, just go start with it, get the Gloves, make a rank 4, and that rank 4 then is Traptrix Rafflesia, and Traptrix Rafflesia with the Traptrix trap card in the main deck is going to be an answer to Droll and Lockbird. Meaning, you have now already brought Rafflesia, your first rank 4 monster, onto the field before committing into Droll and Lockbird. And now when your opponent has Droll and Lockbird, while you are continuing with your Ryziel cards, you can just simply stop it with the Rafflesia. So I thought the Dodo cards just did something that the Ryziel cards already were doing, but no. Actually, they added something, a new aspect to the strategy, which saw great success already at Oceanics with, I think, like 4 or 5 people in Top Cut with it. And then also at NAWCQ, it was converting okayishly as well, I would say. Mario D'Amico being the one that stood out by finishing in 6th place in the end with the Ryziel Onomad strategy. But a lot of people that I've been talking to have been agreeing with me that those cards do look really scary. Those cards just give more bodies to the Ryziel cards. And some people may even say these cards are crazier than Ryziel cards. I don't want to go that far, but that engine certainly is pretty strong. The only thing you gotta consider is how bricky are those one-off cards in the Dodo strategy. Like the gloves, drawing that is not particularly good. And also some of the others aren't that great either. But so overall, I think the strategy certainly is something that caught people by surprise. And I think judging by the expectations we had before Duelist Advanced towards those Onomart cards, those certainly did overperform, if you ask me, quite certainly. But of course, let's move on into the next card. And Lunalight Gold Leo is standing for the different support cards that Lunalight has received in Duelist Advance as well. Of course, Lunalight Gold Leo being the perfect new starter for the deck, the card that does everything in the main deck. But of course, then there also is the Liger Dancer being the new boss monster, which you're now trying to end on twice on your end field, being a complete tower, being unaffected by your opponent's card effects, and so on and so forth. And Lunalight, I think it's fair to say, really had some hype going for it just on Duelist Advance release, or the couple of days before that as well. People were like, oh no, I need to play answers to the towers, I need to play solutions to the Lunalight deck, I need to think about what to do against Lunalight overall. This deck is going to be a fierce competitor in the new meta game. I need to be prepared for Lunalight no matter what. And I also was just scared of the Lunalight cards because I just, like, it was a new deck that you just, of course, no matter how successful it turns out to be, you need to be aware of and then you need to be prepared for. But looking at the numbers, Oceanics on the first week of Duelist Advance legality, 0 Lunalights in top 64. And then 1 week after, just the last weekend, NAWCQ, we had one Lunalight making it into top 32 in the end. So the cards are good, for sure. We all know they are. We know that ending on 2 towers is quite scary. And I think with this one, maybe we're still waiting for the right person to pick the deck up, because I feel like with an insane pilot, this deck might have the potential to just break out and have a crazy run at a tournament too. Like comparable, for example, to the top 4 Gem 9 run we had at NAWCQ just yet. I think Lunalight possibly is also capable of doing that. But so far, looking at the raw numbers, one top cut appearance across 2 weekends of big events with Duelist Advance being legal. That deck and that support did not live up to its hype, I gotta say. I think people expected more from Lunalight. I think people were over-preparing, possibly even for this deck. And maybe that is also, of course, a reason why the deck then in the end did underperform, because people were just addressing it too much. But it's actually, it's not there yet. Maybe it is going to change. Maybe not, though. Maybe the deck is just not as good as people were anticipating. So far, Lunalight gets the underperformed after 2 weeks. But of course, EUWCQ is still around the corner. Next card we have here is Archmage Finmal, but of course also just standing for the entirety of Art Mage in general. And with this one, it's funny because it really felt like at NAWCQ in the first round, they were trying to present this. They were trying to put it into the spotlight. They were trying to give it a chance to show off. And I think people were just rather skeptical about the Archmage deck because people were just not really having the highest of hopes for it. And everyone was just kind of saying, yes, the Archmage cards, they are going to be meta relevant eventually, or at least Meteors in some form. But it's not just yet. But as it is a lore deck, you can expect it to be very relevant along the way. But initially, people were kind of not expecting too much from it. And then after the round 1 feature match we had with Archmage, it lost, and it didn't show up anywhere again. Not at the top tables, not in the top cut. In Oceania also, it was absolutely not anything that we saw. So, not any, like, I can't say that Archmage underperformed because there just wasn't really any great expectations for the deck. But so far, but I'm sure that is going to change in the future. So far, Archmage not really scary by any means, and not something that you need to be necessarily preparing for just yet. But keep those cards in the back of your mind. They are probably, even though we don't know the support that is about to come, that is happening in the future, but there is a very, very good reason to believe that they are going to push this lore deck to a decent level eventually. Next up on the list, we have the Psychics. And with the Psychics, I don't know, expectations kind of similar to Archmage. Nobody really expected Psychics to do anything necessarily. And there also is more support planned for Psychics as far as I'm aware in the next couple of sets. Or at least in the next one, right? But nothing. Nada. There was a Punk deck, but Punk ain't Psychics, you know? You can combine Psychics and Punk, maybe, which could be cool. But overall, no expectations for the Psychic cards, really, but also no results to be seen from it just yet. I hope someone does something with these cards, though, because when you read through them, they are actually, some of them are really, really, really custom, you know? Like, for example, the Serene Psychic Girl we have just opened up here. If this card is normal Special Summon, you can banish one card from your hand, and if you do Special Summon level 4 or lower Psychic monster from your deck, like, that is good. That is certainly not a bad card at all. And there's other cards in there which also support the Psychic strategy a lot. And I'm just, in general, I was always a big fan of Punks and just Psychic monsters in general. I think Psychic and Punisher is an hilarious card that I always love to summon with my Punk deck or even sometimes with my Tier Limits deck. So I'm hoping that this is going to pop off a little more at some point. But so far, nothing really coming out of it. Next up, though, the Monox. Chat, how much did you expect from Monox? Because I feel like there was also at least a slight bit of excitement going around in the community when we saw the Monox supports. Because Monox was not real in the metagame at all, really, in the last couple of months. But when we read the support cards, they're all just so good on paper, right? Like, all of them have really, really, really strong effects for the Monox strategy. Like, of course, you can't really play them anywhere outside of Monox, but for what Monox needed, this actually just, it really, really, really fit the archetype. It really, really, really looked like this would be helping the strategy, but it's just, nobody really picked it up, right? I hope there's going to be someone at EUWCQ. I think Europe has a history, of course, shout out to Lithium as well, with having a very, very exciting Monarch gameplay and people being very, very hyped about Monarchs. So maybe someone is coming in with Monarchs at EUWCQ and is going to run a show. I would really love that. I would really be happy with that. But we shall see. So far, no Top Cut appearances, no nothing. That little bit of hype that was there for Monarchs surely did not transfer into anything. So Monarchs so far, even though not drastically because the expectations were also sort of low, not really putting out any numbers at the moment. But moving on to the next, we have Kaiba the Legend standing for the Blue Eyes support that was released in Duat as well. And we did have top cut appearances from Blue Eyes, both at NAWCQ and at Oceanics. Nobody really played this card though, right? Kaiba the Legend sort of like would require you to change how the Blue Eyes deck is played, because you would need to play 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons in your deck, like the original Blue Eyes vanilla. But nobody really went down that rabbit hole, went down that route, and just all the Blue Eyes decks sort of still looked like they were looking before. It just doesn't really seem like this card really is supporting the deck to the degree that it needed support in. Chat also right now is saying, if this would have just been a spellcaster, it would have been so much better. But yeah, the fact that it is a warrior surely does not really help. That is actually true, you're right. Kaiba the Legend, disappointment because Blue Eyes not moving anywhere because of this card specifically. It did make top 4 at Oceanics, though. Like, it almost made Worlds, but they did not play Kaiba the Legend, sadly. Next up on the list, oops, this one first. And this is the one where we gotta start talking. Vanker Soul Holly Sue. I know everyone was excited about Vanker Soul, but I think the main reason why people were excited about Vanker Soul was seeing how incredibly strong and how incredibly well it is doing in the OCG together with the K9 cards that we are going to get just after Euros, essentially in 2 weeks from now. I think people were anticipating the Vanker Soul card so much because of K9. At least that's what I thought. That's what my impression was, but people just were really ready to combine the Vanker Soul cards with K9 as soon as K9 comes out. But guess what? Vanker Soul went honestly kind of bananas at NAWCQ. It was kind of quiet with it at Oceanics. Only one of them was in Top Cut, I believe. But then now at NAWCQ, you could almost say a new warrior has entered the top meta area, because 7 Vanker Soul in top 64. 7, chat. That's a crazy high number. I did not expect so many Vanker Soul without the K9 cards to be in the top cut at all. I did not think that would happen. We had a Vanker Soul in top A2, almost making it to Worlds as well. Like, Holly Sue, and of course the Field Spell, and then also Vanker Soul Rocks, which probably played the smallest role, but the Holly Sue and the Field Spell mainly, they boosted the deck up, even in its pure form that it is still in right now, to a level where you gotta say, even before the K9 cards, this is already overperforming. People were not expecting this necessarily. I think, like, you could say, hey, we can see this deck being alright already, even without the K9 cards. But I don't know whether people were really expecting this to be a top meta contender right out the gate. Because that's what it is. Let's face it, chat. It was the 3rd most represented deck at the top cut of NAWCQ. This is not a rogue deck. By the numbers, this is certainly a tier deck. This is a tier 2 to tier 1.5 deck by just looking at the raw number from NAWCQ. And I'm very excited to see whether those numbers are going to be also then shown at EUWCQ. I know our beloved EU warrior Joshua Schmidt is having bright eyes for the Vanker Soul strategy as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he brings it to EUWCQ. So I'm excited for Holly Sue and their Vanker Soul brothers, and that deck certainly was overperforming on the first 2 weeks in the set of Duelist Advance, for sure. So, next up, we have then Chef de Nouvelle. I can keep this pretty short. No Nouvelle decks to be seen. Nobody necessarily expected anything big from Nouvelle either, though. Maybe someone comes in cooking with it eventually, but for the moment, Nouvelle nowhere really to be seen besides the rogue kitchen tables. Get it? The kitchen tables? Haha. Next up then, we got Morgana the Witch of Ice, which was released alongside another Morganite card in Duelist Advance as well. And for this, I feel like there was a little bit of, I don't want to call it hype, but people were at least starting to get scared of stun being a factor in the metagame again. And that, of course, would be Morganite stun now with the Morgana the Witch of Ice and also with the new Morganite spell card. But I mean, I think the main scary thing that the deck is able to do is just normal summoning out Christia due to the new Morganite spell card. And people, like, were scared of Christia, but nowhere to be seen. Again, nowhere to be seen. Morganite stun, not anywhere in the top cuts, not anywhere at the top tables. Time maybe still to come for it, though. I wouldn't rule out that Morganite stun will be at least a small factor at EUWCQ. I could see it. Zums Williams, by the way, thank you so much for the follow over here on Twitch. Again, reminder for the people watching on YouTube, this is live streamed on Twitch. Go over to the Twitch channel. You can find the link in the description and then head on over to see this live the next time you want to see some content from me. So, not much, right? We didn't get much out of the Morganite cards, but also the expectations were rather low. Next up, and chat, I think this one, besides Holisu maybe the most impactful card from Duelist Advance. Velen, the Super Sai Sky Blaster, was considered to be an option for Ryziel players to be sent off of extra Ryziel, of course, from the extra deck, to be baiting out face-down cards on the field. But you can't call this an option. This card was in every Ryziel deck. Every Ryziel player was running Velen. No discussion. Immediately, the consent amongst players was Velen is a card you need to include into your extra deck if you're playing extra Ryziel in your main deck, and I totally agree. It just gives you such, like, X-Riser going second is already crazy with having Aggregator, but now having even more options to also go into cards like Solemn Warning, Solemn Judgment, and things like that, Velen just puts the pressure on. Like, essentially, when your opponent has Solemn Warning or Solemn Judgment, and you go X-Riser send Velen, they need to use that. They need to use that on the summon of X-Riser, otherwise your Velen is just going to be going after the Solemn Judgment, and then maybe it is gone. Maybe the Solemn Warning is gone otherwise. And therefore, Velen, truly a huge boost to the Ryziel strategies. And technically, of course, also a factor that can be seen in Vanker Soul, with it being level 5 or rank 5 Exceed monster, and Vanker Soul having plenty of options to go into those rank 5 monsters with the plentitude of level 5 monsters that they offer. Next up, Sky Striker Ace 0. We did have Sky Strikers on feature at NAWCQ. It did win, and it looked really, really, really strong when they were playing it. It did, in the end, not convert into a top cut appearance at either NAWCQ or the Oceanics. It's... Chat, you know, from the bottom of my heart, I'm one of the biggest Striker fans out there. Striker is my most favorite deck of all time. I thought this could immediately be meta relevant again, but I think it is really being held back by the existence of Droll and Lockbird in essentially every player's deck right now. Like, if it would not be for Droll and Lockbird in everybody's deck, probably Strikers would be a lot more valid right from the get-go. For now, though, with you getting Drolled like every second game, it's tough, you know? It's tough. Also, the going first that Malice and Mitsurugi Ryziel are putting out at the moment are insanely strong. And therefore, making the decision to go second is a tough one to make in the current Yu-Gi-Oh landscape. To be noted, though, there was a blind going second deck in top 4 qualifying for Worlds in NAWCQ with Gem Knights, but that deck, of course, not struggling into Droll and Lockbird as much as this Sky Striker deck does. So I would love to say it performed right away. It is one of our winners. It is one of the powerhouses from Duelist Advance. For the moment, though, no real results. I am praying, though, as well for this deck to hopefully have a good run at EUWCQ. I want a Striker Warrior in Top Cut. I would love a Striker Warrior, a Striker player, in the end, making their way into the Top Cut. Yo, I'm talking bad about Striker, and all of a sudden it starts lightning out there. The lightning storm is happening right outside of my window. Holy. Erinix, thanks for the follow here on Twitch as well. Welcome to the stream. Appreciate that a lot. Moving on, we have the next card on the list. Gorgon of Silophonia. And this one, well, this one, by some people, was called and labeled as possibly a new extra deck staple. Possibly the new IP Masquerena target in the extra deck. Possibly something when you play into the field having insanely strong value because it can just come out of nowhere, negating all those cards that it is pointing to. So I like the theory of this card as well. Looking through the lists from NAWCQ specifically, though, there weren't really many players playing this card. The highest I could find it was from Charlie Ray Fudge. Charlie Ray Fudge got 5th place, and because of Julian Keon already being qualified for the points playoff, did qualify to Worlds with Gorgon of Silophonia in their extra deck. So there was someone really appreciating this card that also had massive success with it. I would love to hear it from him, though. Did he really use it that much? Did it really come up that much for him? Overall, I think from the top 64 players for NAWCQ, 2 or 3 actually ended up running this card in their extra deck. And the thing right now is the extra deck space is super tight. And basically, by playing Gorgon of Silophonia, you would have to consider cutting SP Little Knight for it. And I think in no world you can really cut SP Little Knight from your extra deck instead of this. Because I feel like SP Little Knight just has so many more applicable situations. It's a Baguska out. It has so many things going for itself. Like, SP Little Knight in comparison to this just is a no-brainer to me that SP Little Knight wins the battle between the two. And with extra deck space being so tight, I don't really think at the moment you can allow yourself necessarily to put another target for IP Masquerena that you want to summon out on your opponent's turn into your extra deck. Also, the attack points of only 100. Of course, you gain attack from the monsters it's pointing to, but your opponent can maybe also then just like link those off, and then you're not pointing to anything anymore of it. So, Gorgon of Silophonia. So far, even though it was in a World's qualifying deck list, disappointment. Not gonna lie, it was a disappointment. What can I do? It didn't do the trick. It didn't do too much. So far for the moment, not really there just yet. And then next up on the list, we got the Miracle Raven. And with the Miracle Raven, I remember being live on Twitch, chatting with the people in the chat, and there were some people saying, hey, this card actually is sick for rituals, because one thing that this does now, and that is kind of hilarious, is you can bridge in Voiceless Voice into Mitsurugi, which is pretty hilarious. So the Miracle Raven actually gives ritual decks in general a pretty good tool on top of what they already have. There is a super popular ritual strategy at the moment with Mitsurugi, but none of the Mitsurugi decks really had the necessity to just include this, as the Mitsurugi engine in itself already is so incredibly consistent, so it doesn't need any further tools to be consistent with, because you already have those crazy one-card starters and everything. But this, of course, means that now decks, as also Caitlin is saying in chat, decks like Necros and Voices Voice, they do now have one-card combos. We did not see any of those one-card combos yet, but I think with this one, there wasn't a whole lot of expectations for this overall, I gotta say. This one, though, I think might be coming our way in the future. I think Miracle Raven will be included in some topping decks, maybe immediately on EUWCQ weekend at EUWCQ. Maybe a little bit after that as well, though. But I feel like Miracle Raven does have the potential to come out shining. But when we look at the raw data from the first 2 weeks, just looking at the prestigious events that we had and their top cuts and the representation of decks in those, Miracle Raven, total of 0. Sorry for that, Miracle Raven, but you haven't done anything in the last 2 weeks. And then next up, and also lastly, the TCG exclusive from Duelist Advance being RBs. And we're having RB Vulcan Booster here as our symbol. And chat, with RBs, I feel like a lot of people were somewhat skeptical of the archetype. I mean, it's tough. Like, our last TCG exclusive was Mitsurugi. Of course, RBs are not going to be on Mitsurugi level because Mitsurugi is crazy, 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 crazy. So people were a bit disappointed by the RBs, but I think they do have some quite nice tools in them. And I was excited whether someone would be able to do something to do with this. But in the end, chat, we saw on feature RB Crystron. Yes, they lost, sure. We saw on feature RB Cyber Dragon. So I think this actually, the RB cards, they do have more, like, they are actually quite decent in a multitude of different machine decks. I thought it's like going to be tough splashing them into something because, of course, as you can see here with Vulcan Booster, you do have the restriction from the extra deck that you're only allowed to summon machine monsters with 1,500 or less attack points, which is quite the lock, of course, that you're putting yourself into. But seems like multiple people were able to cook something up with the RBs, and therefore expectations for this basically were 0, if you ask me. Basically 0 expectations for the RB cards, but they were there. They were on feature. They were even in the somewhat more later rounds, like around 7 or 8, I think it was, when the Crystron RB player was on. They were doing all right. They were not doing too bad, really. RBs, actually for me, gets the thumbs up. Overperformed. Didn't make top cut anywhere or anything, but still, they showed up. They were there. No top cut appearance, but no one really thought they would be close to a top cut appearance even. And we were at least genuinely surprised a little bit that they did actually put in a decent amount of work. But everyone, that was it for the Duelist Advance review, the breakdown. How did they actually perform on the first 2 weeks, all the different topics from Duelist Advance? Let me know again in the comments what you think was the most impactful card or most impactful theme from Duelist Advance, and how you liked this video maybe as well. Make sure to leave a like to the video as well. Subscribe to the channel, please, too. And make sure to also check out over on the Twitch street next time around while we are recording these live. Until next time, everyone, see you at yours, the very least.